Suga, BTS, recently drew attention after, in several moments, he openly explained the reasons why he often prefers wearing closed outfits rather than styles that reveal much of his body. And this explanation developed into a rather interesting topic among fans and fashion observers within the K-pop industry. During an official schedule in the afternoon, he was seen arriving in layered clothing that matched his usual style, consisting of a simple black t-shirt covered by a light jacket and straight-cut long pants, a look that has become strongly attached to his image over the years. Over time, fans began to notice the consistency of his wardrobe choices that rarely changed in a significant way. And as the attention toward this detail grew, Suga eventually addressed it in a casual interview during promotional activities, explaining that his preference for covered outfits was not only about aesthetics, but also related to personal comfort. He described that since the early days of debuting with BTS, his body often felt exhausted due to the packed schedule, and choosing covered clothing made him feel more protected from the outside environment. Whether it was from the cold air conditioning in studios or from sunlight exposure when moving between different locations. Beyond the comfort factor, Suga also emphasized that loose and closed clothing gave him space to remain focused on his work without feeling distracted by excessive attention to physical appearance, something that he considered very important because he wanted most of his energy directed toward music and performance. This attitude reflects the consistency of his personality that is known to be calm and not heavily prioritizing fashion spotlight, even though he is part of one of the most influential groups in the global entertainment industry. For some people, the reason may sound simple, yet in the context of an idol's life with high public exposure, Suga's honesty provided a more human view of how he keeps himself comfortable and stable amid demanding work routines. After this explanation circulated, many fans actually felt closer to him because they could understand that behind the glamorous image of an international star, there is a simple need to feel secure with everyday clothing choices. From there, discussions about his style were more often viewed through a lens of appreciation rather than just a debate about fashion, and Suga himself appeared calm while continuing his usual activities, attending his next official schedules with outfits that remained consistent in their closed and minimalist tone. Suga continued to maintain his consistency in outfit choices during the following schedules, and as his explanation about preferring closed clothing began to circulate more widely, the narrative surrounding him gradually shifted from a conversation about fashion trends to a reflection on personal identity and lifestyle choices in the entertainment industry. When he appeared at a rehearsal session in the evening for an upcoming performance, he was again dressed in a combination of long-sleeve top and relaxed pants with an outer layer, a style that matched the practicality he had previously described. Observers noted how this decision was not part of a calculated effort to make a fashion statement, but more of a natural extension of his daily routine, aligning with the way he handled his demanding career with balance. The rehearsal ended smoothly, and his team members, stylists, and staff continued to support his approach, acknowledging that the artist's comfort should take precedence over external expectations, especially since the hectic pace of schedules often leaves little room for unnecessary discomfort. The following day brought another round of press coverage, and while fashion analysts tried to interpret his choices through the lens of K-pop's ongoing influence on global style, fans responded with comments that centered more on understanding his personality, praising the way he remained authentic rather than bending toward trends. For Suga, the focus remained on his work, as he prepared materials for the studio while still appearing in modest outfits that reflected his intent to keep distractions minimal. His studio time reflected the same atmosphere. Headphones on, layered hoodie, and simple track pants, all designed to keep him grounded while crafting music. The way he merged these elements of style with his routine emphasized that his decision was never about rejecting fashion, but rather about creating an environment where he could feel settled. Throughout the day, he moved between practice rooms, studio meetings, and small breaks, consistently appearing in attire that resonated with his earlier explanation. The more people saw this pattern, the clearer it became that Suga's style was part of a bigger narrative of self-care, and many outlets began reporting on how his personal choices added nuance to the often glamorous but also exhausting life of a global idol. Instead of interpreting his outfits as a lack of creativity or boldness, the tone shifted toward acknowledging how the simplicity of his clothing mirrored the discipline and maturity he carries in his approach to work and public life. As the day concluded, his presence at another low-key event reaffirmed the image of someone who understands his needs and sets boundaries clearly. And the coverage reflected that the understated outfits, rather than being overlooked, had become a central theme in highlighting his thoughtful way of navigating fame.
During the next sequence of schedules, Suga's approach to wearing closed outfits continued to draw attention, not because of any sudden change, but rather due to the consistency he maintained as days progressed. And as media outlets followed him from one activity to another, the discussion evolved into a more thoughtful observation about how personal comfort shapes public image. In the late morning, he was seen heading to a production meeting, accompanied by staff and coordinators, dressed in a layered shirt with a loose jacket and standard dark pants, an ensemble that once again echoed his preference for practical and covered clothing. The meeting itself revolved around preparations for upcoming promotions, but reporters who caught sight of him on the way noted how his appearance remained steady in tone, almost signaling an unspoken commitment to remain true to his earlier explanation about why such styles work best for him. After the meeting, he took some time to rest before heading into the studio, and during that quieter moment, the atmosphere revealed more about how a public figure like Suga balances the demands of an international career with the very simple act of choosing clothing that feels right. In the studio environment, surrounded by instruments, equipment, and his team, he continued to wear his usual hoodie layered with a cap, further underlining how such attire provided both physical ease and a sense of personal boundary, especially in spaces that required deep focus. Analysts who later wrote about him pointed out that this minimalism in clothing mirrored the efficiency in his workflow, where energy was directed toward creative output rather than outward presentation. As the day unfolded into evening, his schedule required another appearance at a rehearsal venue, and once again, he arrived in a combination of comfortable long sleeves and casual trousers, carrying the same understated presence. This repetitive pattern might appear uneventful on the surface, yet for followers of his journey, it painted a consistent picture of a man who places health, privacy, and concentration above the ever-shifting expectations of fashion cycles. Articles published that night highlighted how Suga's choice set an example for younger idols who might feel pressured to adapt to extreme styles, showing that authenticity can coexist with professionalism without diminishing appeal. His presence in rehearsal, focused yet modestly dressed, reinforced that message, as staff noted how smoothly he navigated the session. By the time he left the venue, coverage had already begun to circulate online, portraying the image of Suga not only as a musician, but also as a figure who subtly redefines how simplicity can become its own form of statement in an industry that often prioritizes extravagance. The day closed with him returning quietly, his style unchanged, and the narrative around him more strongly tied to the idea of steadiness rather than spectacle, a perspective that continued to shape how the public viewed his evolving identity. Suga's following routines continued with the same pattern that had gradually become an essential part of his public narrative. And as each schedule unfolded, his preference for closed outfits seemed less like a topic of debate and more like a natural element of his identity, observed and documented in a straightforward manner by those who followed his daily activities. In the morning, he attended another internal session with producers and managers, walking into the building in a plain long-sleeved shirt covered by a loose jacket paired with relaxed trousers, an ensemble that once again emphasized functionality rather than trend.
The session focused on evaluating recent progress in production, and throughout the hours he remained attentive, his calm posture underscored by the ease of clothing that allowed him to sit comfortably and participate without interruption. After the session, he moved to a rehearsal space where he rehearsed for upcoming schedules, wearing a simple hoodie and jogger pants that supported mobility while still adhering to his closed style. Observers noted how his routine choices created continuity, presenting an image of reliability in both work and appearance, something that fans and analysts alike had come to associate with him. The afternoon saw him in the studio once again, headphones secured as he layered tracks, his outfit blending seamlessly with the focused atmosphere of the room, where dim lighting and concentrated energy required nothing more than clothing that kept him at ease. Outside the studio, photos captured by media portrayed him walking quietly with staff, his layered jacket and cap forming a silhouette that had become familiar. Commentators wrote about how this preference aligned with his personality traits of modesty and focus, arguing that the simplicity of his attire served as an anchor amid the pressures of global stardom. By evening, when he participated in another review session for upcoming promotions, the scene repeated itself in tone and detail, as his outfit once again presented minimal exposure, prioritizing comfort and neutrality. The day concluded with him leaving the building in the same steady manner, and the reports that followed painted a consistent picture. Suga was not shifting to please external expectations, but reinforcing a lifestyle that he had long internalized. The framing of his closed outfits thus reached a point of clarity where instead of being viewed as an avoidance of style, they were appreciated as an authentic choice that supported his demanding career. Each appearance in these outfits, from meetings to rehearsals to studio work, carried the same underlying message that personal ease and focus outweighed any fleeting demand for spectacle, and the story of Suga's clothing had naturally merged with the larger story of how he approached life as an artist, navigating a world of constant visibility. Suga's activities on the next day unfolded with the same steady rhythm, and the way he presented himself in closed outfits continued to underscore a larger narrative of consistency and self-awareness rather than mere stylistic choice, a narrative that both fans and media alike had begun to accept as an authentic expression of his personality. In the late morning, he was seen entering the rehearsal hall for a practice session, dressed in a simple layered sweatshirt with long sleeves and dark pants, carrying himself with the familiar reserved demeanor that matched his understated clothing. The rehearsal was dedicated to refining stage transitions and adjusting technical details, and throughout the process his attire functioned as a practical companion, offering mobility and comfort without drawing unnecessary attention. As the rehearsal concluded and he transitioned into the studio for recording, he switched only into a light outer jacket over the same clothing, a gesture that reflected not so much a change in fashion, but a small adjustment for temperature and practicality. Inside the studio, he spent long hours reviewing tracks, his hoodie pulled over his head while he focused on instrumentation, and the attire provided both privacy and concentration, aligning perfectly with the atmosphere of creative work. Staff members moved around to prepare equipment, but his presence remained grounded, supported by the comfort of his chosen clothing that required no fuss. Later in the afternoon, he attended a low-profile internal briefing with management regarding upcoming engagements, again in his modest attire. And reporters who spotted him noted that the repetition of his outfit pattern had by then become part of his recognizable identity. Coverage in entertainment sections no longer framed it as unusual, but as part of a broader commentary on how individuality persists in a highly stylized industry. Fans shared posts online highlighting their appreciation for how he maintained authenticity, showing that admiration for him extended beyond performance into the realm of daily discipline. As the evening arrived, he made an appearance at another practice space, still in similar clothing, his style minimal yet reflective of his earlier explanation about feeling protected and comfortable when fully covered. Analysts pointed out that in the crowded landscape of K-pop, where visual presentation is constantly scrutinized, Suga's steady reliance on simple, closed outfits demonstrated a mature approach that prioritized health and focus. By the end of the day, he left quietly, his layered look unchanged, and the resulting media reports reinforced the understanding that his choices were not a resistance to fashion, but a deliberate act of self-care. The image of Suga in these outfits had by now become symbolic of his approach to fame, an approach rooted in stability, routine, and clarity. And the continuation of this pattern further deepened the recognition of his identity as an artist who values comfort and authenticity above all external expectations.